hope this is getting me all in the picture here. Trying to set up my GoPro here in the little corner of my living room. But I wanted to make a couple of videos today since I haven't made any videos for a while. First thing I wanted to talk about was just a real quick gun-related video on the Glock 19x. You can see here I've got a different slide on this one. Right now it's a Gen 4 summer special slide, and I wanted to set up a slide where I could try a comp on here, and kind of a Roland special sort of thing. It's got a Lone Wolf barrel and one of their comps. There are some other comps that look sexier and everything, but I like this one because it's long enough. If you've got a light on it, you're getting the muzzle out past the end of the light, and also the ports are all on the top of the comp. I know one of the things that a lot of people like to whine about if you have a comp on your pistol is that it's something you should never do for self-defense, because if you're shooting in a retention situation, like back in close to you, you can have the particulates, and all that stuff, little tiny pieces of the copper jacket or whatever, bullet fragments that get peeled off in the barrel or going through the comp can blow up in your face. Actually, most people, obviously it's debatable in a self-defense situation whether or not you're necessarily going to be thinking about all these things. You're just going to be trying to get a shot off. But normally what people teach in close retention position is to tilt the gun away from you a little bit so the slide isn't snagging on your clothes or anything, and you don't have to worry about it causing a malfunction. So with having the comps just on the or the ports just on the top of the compensator, if you tilt it away, you don't have anything on the side here, so you don't have the stuff blowing up in your face. You can tilt it and all that stuff is going out to the side, which gets rid of the one the one big downside that I can really see with a comp. I know there are people who say that it's going to destroy your night vision and all that. I think Aaron Cowan at Sage Dynamics did a pretty good video that pretty much blows all that out of the water. If it's dark enough that you're going to be messing up your night vision with the flash from the pistol, you're going to be using a light anyways, or you should be. And actually, if you look at the muzzle flash from some of the modern ammo, it's not that big a deal. I need to try this out with a bunch of different ammo, of course. I'd like to try it with some Plus P Plus, Federal 9BP LE. The load I've always been using lately is the 147 grain Federal HST Plus P. I know people usually talk about the comps being set up for the 124 Plus P, like the gold dots or the HST. So I'll have to try some different stuff out. Just wanted to play around with it and see how it shoots. I've shot this slide on here before without the comp on it, and it worked really well. No kind of malfunctions at all. On this pistol. When I bought this slide, it had the newest generation of the TFO sights, the TFO Pro, I guess. And I didn't really like the orange ring around the front. It didn't really, especially in daylight, it just didn't really, I don't know, with my eyes and wearing these progressive lenses and stuff, I guess it just didn't really stand out to me the way I wanted it to. And I had this older TFX front sight, which I put on here, and it just has, the fiber optic and a lot bigger, little bulb here on the end of that fiber optic tube, and it gives me a lot better, catches my eye a lot better. And I actually think, even though I've had the sight laying around for a couple of years, it was just as bright at night as the front sight that came on here with these, so I'm pretty happy with that. One thing I did, one thing I like about the new Gen 5 pistols is the this ambidextrous slide stop. Very strong, much better, stronger part than they used to have on their pistols. When I was running this with just the original slide that came on it, I actually had cut off this part on the left hand side so I wouldn't have to worry about my thumb catching it and keeping the slide from locking open. But since I wanted to run this Gen 4 slide on here that doesn't have the cutout on the other side, I actually on this one cut off the end down in here on the right side, so I can still use it with, you know, either the Gen 4 or Gen 5 slides on there, using a you know, the captured just a single recoil spring. It's from NDZ Performance. Right now I'm running the stock spring on here. I actually bought a 13-pound spring to try with the comp, and you know, just using it just to see if it was strong enough and if it would push the slide back shut. You hold it up like this and let this, you know, get the slide where it's almost closed, and that 13-pounder wouldn't even push it back into battery. So I guess the only way you would probably need that anyways is with the 115 grain range ammo, which for self-defense I'm not going to be using, so hopefully this will function 100% with the full power spring in there if you're using powerful enough ammo. I'll probably buy some of the Winchester 124 grain NATO full metal jacket to practice with it. But anyways, the one thing I wanted to talk about more than anything before I got off on all this other stuff is the notch on here underneath on the rail. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody point this out before or not, but when I first got this, you know, tried it with this TLR1 HL, I've got the 1913, you know, Picatinny rail key in there, and I noticed that it fit perfect with that 1913 key in there, which got me wondering about whether or not they had changed the size of this from the traditional, you know, Glock notch that you see a lot of stuff have. And I suspect since this was made for the military trials that they put a Picatinny size slot in there. And same thing when I tried this Surefire X300U -A, it had the universal thing in there, the notch, whenever I first got it, and you could slide it back and forth. I replaced that with the Picatinny key. I don't know what Surefire calls them, if they call them a key or not. But you know, you can't, assuming I get it locked on, you can't do that anymore now. It is a little harder to make sure, you got to make sure you get it locked in there with that Picatinny attachment in there. But it definitely much more solid. You can't move it at all. And I think Glock is using a Picatinny size slot on this frame on the 19X, which I don't know if they've changed that on any of their other pistols, you know, the Gen 5s or anything like that, but definitely on this 19X, you can still use their other attachments, but it's going to be tighter if you have a Picatinny setup on there, which is fine with me because, you know, the only other thing I would use these for is like on my AR rail. But I just wanted to point that out, the size of that, just some of the little modifications. The one thing I've done, I replaced the back strap, you know, the plug here and the back strap with one from Ghost Inc. Definitely gives you a lot smoother ramp up into the mag funnel. This set came with one that you can also use the back straps on, which I decided I'm not using any back straps on it, so I went back to this one. It's a lot smoother than that, you know, lanyard loop one that they had in there. Gets rid of that little notch. You've got a straight ramp up in there. And this right here too, there's a little lip right here under the front that you can snag the front of the magazine on when you're pushing it up in there. I took my Dremel tool and a file, and that's not totally gone, but I got that really smoothed out, so you can just slide it right up in there. But I just wanted to point that out about the rail on the frame. You're probably not going to notice it. You know, it's big enough that any of your other lights that are set up for a standard Glock slot on there are going to fit on here. But you may notice that they're a little bit looser than you're used to, and I really do think that they switched that to the Picatinny size. But anyways, there's my Glock 19x. I've been really happy with it so far. I've had 0 malfunctions with it, and I know a lot of people whine about how it's a useless concept, but I really like it, and especially with the comp on it, it definitely makes it a much more usable package. People say, why don't you just get a 17? But if you get a 17 and put a comp on it, unless it's a little short one, then you're way out here even longer. I do have a holster I can carry this in. I don't know if it'll be my daily carry, once I've got it tested enough to be sure it's reliable. But I really do like the setup, and pretty cool.